This value chain analysis ceremony this morning is a clear indication that the activities funded under the European Union Agricultural Transformation Program of the Banana Accompanying Measures Program are starting to roll out. And of course, the value chain analysis is in the lead. The EU BAM-funded projects selected for St. Lucia total somewhere in the region of 10.3 million euros, which is equivalent to or translates to now a little over 27 million EC dollars. Of course, when we did sign the financing agreement in May of 2013, it then stood at a little over 35 million Eastern Caribbean dollars. But with the devaluation of the euro, we now have less. The activities under this EU BAM-funded program, the activities are lumped in four groups. The first one consists of the agri-enterprise facilitation, made up of activities such as this value chain analysis that's been launched this morning, a number of capacity building efforts, and there's also a study dealing with the formation of clusters along the value chains and all of that. But most importantly, there's also the refurbishment and retrofitting of 4 agro-processing centers on the island. All right? The second one, research and technology facilitation, with activities such as the building of a diagnostic facility, which is very important for the agricultural sector, the procurement of equipment for the facility, a number of capacity building efforts relating to the use of the equipment, and also lab procedures and protocols. The third component is disaster risk reduction in agriculture, with activities such as the procurement of inputs for the management of black sigatoka, the rehabilitation of agricultural feeder roads, and we have listed 15 feeder roads. So the assessment is about to start not too long from now. And also there's another activity, the procurement of tanks for non-banana farmers, crop and livestock farmers. And the last one is the youth agri-enterprise facilitation. Of course, with activities such as the procurement of equipment, implements for land preparation, and that's very important because the whole idea is to provide our farmers with this kind of service island-wide. Also the procurement of greenhouse and land preparation, their capacity building activities for the young persons. All right, and this, I must mention that this project, this particular component is also funded by the CARICOM Development Fund, which is the first phase. And of course, with the European Union, we shall move into the second phase. All the activities mentioned, if I may say, are at different stages of implementation. I shouldn't say all, most, sorry. Most of the activities, right. And our consultants who are here, they were here a few weeks back, and they came down just to familiarize themselves, and they collected a lot of data and information and had bilateral discussions, consultations with our stakeholders, with staff of the Ministry of Agriculture, and they started doing some work. And they were, of course, we at the ministry, what we did was to feed them with as many commodities as possible, because for us, the more the merrier. The more you can analyze, the better for us, you know. But anyway, they sat down, and at the end of it all, after they had collected everything and had all the discussions, they decided to go through an elaborate scientific process for the selection of the commodities that are going to be analyzed. And this was based on the economic importance of each commodity. We gave them 12. The economic importance of each commodity, obviously some commodities are will contribute to the economy more than others. The capable stakeholders, other stakeholders who are ready, willing to go into production, other stakeholders ready, willing to go into product development, agro-processing, etc. The market opportunities, local, regional, and extra-regional. The political considerations. All right, some commodities will have more political support, obviously, than others. one can say that cocoa will have more political support than rabbits. Just using this as an example. The performance metrics, whether there's a system in place to collect data and information. For broilers, for example, that's a good, the veterinary and livestock division is doing a very good job at that. You know, they can collect all the data they require from processors, producers, from the marketing end of things, and it's available. But the same cannot be done for, at this point here, for sheep and goats. You know, benefits of the value chain to the industry, that speaks for itself, and import substitution, very importantly. In the case of tomatoes, for example, can we produce tomatoes year-round? Can we have a distributed production instead of having periods of glut and periods of shortages? Yes, we can, but we need to put a number of things in place. Can we go straight into product development, looking at the making of tomato paste and all of that? So at the end of it all, they came up with a list A, a priority list A, and a list B. The priority list A are the commodities that they will go through with the analysis first, because we have to appreciate that just to run a value chain analysis for one commodity takes a lot of time, because you have to analyze all the activities along the chain, including what the entities that are going to provide finance in the form of credit, the input suppliers, and all of that. So it takes a lot of time. So we are hoping they can do for us as many as possible. All right, so the list A, tomatoes, eggs, there's so much potential, both as far as we are self-sufficient, yes, but we can move into powdered eggs, liquid eggs, and all of that, cassava, honey, and small ruminants. And the list B, which is to be tackled after, depending on the time, and which consists of melons, broilers. Fortunately, the Ministry of Commerce took the lead, and the University of the West Indies, I don't know how far they are. I was supposed to call yesterday and find out. They are going through with a value chain analysis for broilers. Cocoa, swine, pineapple, ICA, I think did a market, I'm not sure if they're completed, is doing a market assessment. They've done some work, and we've met with them and the consultants, and they're more than willing to share their information instead of duplicating things. Essential oils, particularly as it relates to our tourist industry, and of course, rabbits. Now, I want to say that this value chain analysis project is very timely and is going to contribute to the transformation, I think, of the agricultural sector that is anticipated. So, as chair, I don't think I should go on and on, but I want to simply say on this note, let me welcome all and thank them for making a special effort to be here this morning. And we at the Ministry of Agriculture are looking forward to the continuation of a very strong working relationship with CADI and the Ministry and all the various organizations, agencies, and entities that will be involved in this very important effort. Thank you.
Around April of last year, the Ministry of Agriculture in St. Lucia invited CADI, amongst other companies, to submit tenders for the conduct of value chain analysis for specified crop and livestock commodities. In January of this year, we were informed that we were selected to undertake this assignment. This is to be carried out over a period of 8 months, with the starting date being January of 2015. So we are expected to actually complete this project by around August, September of this year. This project was formulated within the ambit of the Agricultural Transformation Program funded by the BAM instrument. And the reason being, of course, is because there has been a significant decline in the banana industry, which has been a mainstay of this country in terms of economic growth and activity for a number of years. And of course, then you would have the shock effects impacting in terms of agriculture's contribution to GDP, economic growth, and a result in terms of decline or increase actually in unemployment and the other social impact that such a decline would have really. The expectation of this project, 2 results are to be achieved really, is that the capacity of St. Lucia's agricultural sector to compete more effectively in identified various markets for selected commodities improve through the development of production and marketing strategies. And these strategies will basically come out of the value chain analysis that we are about to undertake. And secondly as well, We are expected to build capacity within the agricultural sector, and more in terms of implementation of valuation analysis. And in this regard, we have 3 counterparts from the ministry who are going to be working with us over the period of the project. And there's also a component of the project which regards to what we call training the trainers. And that selected staff of the ministry will be subjected to training and valuation analysis for a period of about 3 or 4 days. This is expected to come off in July of this year. The activities that are going to repeat undertake valuation analysis of selected commodities, and Mr. Compton mentioned the 5 commodities that we have actually agreed to in terms of list A, and then of course train local stakeholders in an analysis and assessment of selected value chain and linkages in the agri-food sector. So therefore, as Mr. Compton mentioned, there is also a list B, and if perchance time does not permit for us to actually undertake any analysis of those commodities within the list B, then we would expect that the local personnel within the ministry, having been trained in valuation analysis, will be able to take over and carry on with the analysis of these particular commodities. I just want to stop a minute and just give you an indication of when we speak about value chain and value chain analysis, what are we actually referring to? As we all are aware, when we speak of value is barely determines is what might be considered to be worth that somebody places on a particular product or a particular service as well. And this is basically why it is important that when you're doing value chain analysis, you start with the consumer in mind, because they are the ones actually who have to put money into the chain, and they determine the success of that particular chain really. So therefore, whether we like it or not, we are all part of value chains in one way or the other, either as producers, consumers of goods and services, whether we are processors, retailers, finance providers, etc. As consumers, we all eat, we all wear clothing, and so we are linked to value chains in this regard. At the end of the chain, you have producers, farmers who grow the crops and raise animals, and then the other end, you have the consumers who eat, drink, wear, and use the final product. And in the middle are many businesses, small and large, where each of these businesses perform a particular activity in the chain and add value along the way, whether it is growing, purchasing, selling, processing, transporting, storing, checking, and packaging. And then you have the support services that play an important role in terms of the success of such value chains. Banks provide loans, governments establish laws and policies, and agricultural research organizations like CADI develop ways for farmers to more successfully participate in value chains. Having given this background, therefore, a considered definition of value chains is that it is people and activities that bring basic agricultural product like vegetables from production in the field to consumer through stages as processing, packaging, and distribution. So let's now touch on what is the value chain approach. What the value chain approach does really, and this is why we are here in terms of this particular project, is that we will look at the role of existing chain actors, supporting actors, and the policy environment. It allows us, therefore, to look at current challenges in the chain as well as opportunities for improving the efficiency of the value chain and benefits for all involved. Therefore, from a farmer's perspective, being part of a well-functioning value chain can bring greater income. Sometimes participating in a well-functioning value chain can also bring farmers not higher incomes or prices, but more stable and predictable income. And Mr. Compton mentioned in the case of tomatoes, for example, we want to see an evening out in terms of the prices rather than having situations where you have gluts or you have actually where you have shortages as well. Well-functioning markets and value chains can therefore attract young people to farming or persuade them not to leave rural areas by offering better ways to earn money. Participating in value chains can also help a farmer to learn new skills and adopt improved practices. So therefore, instead of piling vegetables into a crate and trucking them to a trader or a market, a farmer can therefore earn money by doing basic processing on the farm. Even cleaning and grading produce can make a big difference. Washing and packaging tomatoes, for example, and delivering to a local store or market can earn a higher price. Peeling and cutting fruit can be an effective way of getting into a growing market for ready-to-eat food products near urban areas. Therefore, why is it important to have value chain analysis? It is essential to have an understanding of the markets, since production only translates into income once farmers actually buy the goods. The value chain approach, therefore, encourages looking at the production process from the consumer's perspective. And this is very, very important. I want to underscore from the consumer or the market perspective. It is no good actually trying to produce a product, and then you decide, where am I going to sell this particular product? And these are the challenges that we have, especially in this region. So we need to take a market-oriented approach in terms of understanding what the consumer wants, what attributes they put in terms of, or the attributes of the product or the service that they require, and we seek, therefore, within the chain itself to actually satisfy these particular attributes in order to maximize the value. And therefore, it is also important as well that the participation of different actors and their relationships is critical, because these are sometimes where the constraints lie to limiting the growth of these particular industries and consequently its competitiveness. So therefore, the starting point of value chain analysis is really a participatory one where we have a mapping exercise. And as a matter of fact, yesterday we started the mapping exercise with the stakeholders of the 5 commodities that was mentioned, and we're going to be continuing this exercise this afternoon. This exercise, as was shown yesterday, indicates or reveals the strengths and weaknesses of the value chain and serves as a starting point for mutual trust building. Discussions involve around input quality, logistic arrangement, or product standards, which often help producers to understand the real demand for their raw product, and listening to processors and consumers can be an eye-opener for products and traders. For producers and traders, when it comes to consumers' needs, the right quality and the right quantity for the right time and the right place. Analyzing the chain can therefore demystify a number of negative perceptions, such as middlemen, exploiters, this is a term that we hear very often, or farmers always break contracts. Pointing out the weaknesses in the chain can help shape the role of public and private institutions to improve chain efficiency and to gain competitiveness. Based on these findings, value chain research strategies can be formulated that eventually lead to the chain development. I just want to touch a bit here on the project approach that we have, that we are going to adopt as far as this particular project is concerned. We have 5 components. Component 1, preparatory project implementation activities, which was implemented during the period of January or February this year. Component 2, value chain analysis, where we're going to be doing mapping, measuring operations, evaluating relationships and information flows, as well as identifying root causes. Component 3, where we are going to basically, we're going to be collecting data from the various stakeholders, and we're going to be collating that data really, and then doing an initial analysis and determine what are the strategic options and what are the appropriate interventions that are required. And then we will come back to each of the stakeholders of the commodities identified, and we'll have what is called stakeholder validation workshops, where we will get their input once again to basically verify that the findings that we are coming with is actually a true reflection of what is happening within the particular chains really. And then, as I mentioned before, the final component is a knowledge transfer, where we're going to be training selected staff of the ministry. Right. In closing, I want to thank you all for participating in the launch, and special thanks to Mr. Compton and the staff of the ministry for all of the efforts in supporting this project, and to my colleagues, Dr. Gooch, Mr. Gibson, and Mr. Pilgrim, for their support. Thank you all very much.
It is my distinct honor and pleasure as the Minister with responsibility for agriculture, food production, fisheries, cooperatives, and rural development to extend a warm welcome to all who are here this morning. I'm very happy to be here at this ceremony. I'm very happy to be here at this launching for the conduct of value chain analysis for specified crop and livestock commodities. Once again, I am sure those who have been in the arena of battle in relationship to food production and agriculture in this country, who are sitting here this morning, would ask themselves, is this another session once again? Have I been through something like that before, many years ago? And what has happened since then? I'm sure the representatives of the Ministry of Finance will be saying, but we have given so much money to agriculture over the years. We took care of bananas. We took care of the cocoa. We built buildings to receive bananas. We have a building with a marketing board. We have the Fondation Center. Now we have a massive meat processing facility. And you may be asking yourselves, what is going to happen? We are going to have the value chain analysis We have consultants again, and you'll ask yourselves, why is all of this important at this time? I dare say that I also join you in this battle in our minds all of the time. But I'm sure there is part somewhere in your heart, not in your mind, but somewhere in your heart, there is a little discussion that says, despite all of these challenges, this is absolutely important for our lives in St. Lucia. There are not many people in the policy arena who truly understand those connections. And I've been in hot water before for saying it, but maybe hot water is where you should be, to jump up and get things going. But there are not many people in the policy arena, in the various discussions, that truly understand the following. In the sub-region, in the OECS, in the year 2000, we earned US $52.03 million US dollars from exports in agriculture. In 2012, we earned 7.57 million US dollars. I want to repeat. And I speak of the OECS because also many times in the policy arena, many people forget that since 2010, we are no longer just St. Lucia. We operate within an OECS economic union, and I dare say to you that while it is important to focus on things in St. Lucia, things in Bellevue and in Debarra and in Machin, even while you do that, you must always look beyond our shores and understand that we are in one OECS economic union. And so what we do in St. Lucia must always encompass what happens in the OECS, because that is where we are, and that is the economic arena that we are dealing with. So in the year 2000, we earned 52.03 million US dollars. In the year 2012, 3 years ago, we were earning 7.57 million US dollars. Our country and our countries in the OECS have been characterized by low growth rates over the years, high public debt, declines in foreign exchange. Interestingly, we've seen growth in tourism in many of those countries. But that growth in tourism caused there to be an expanded market, an expanded demand for vegetables and fruit and so on. With all of that, we've had high unemployment over the years, high inflation in some countries, and every year we continue to increase our food import bill. In the OECS, in 2011, we had to find $472 million US dollars to buy food. In the OECS in 2011, we had to find $472 million US dollars to buy food. I put it like this: we had to find it because many people, again, in the policy arena believe you can't touch it. You can't touch it like this podium. So we don't understand that to buy food from overseas, we have to get the money. We have to get the US dollars to buy the food. In St. Lucia, 28% of that $472 million, we in St. Lucia had to find that. Interestingly, in St. Lucia, you may not know it, but in 2011, 83% of our food had to be sought from outside. 83%. Which meant that in order to feed our children, and if you have to take it to the level of the family, in order every morning for you to give your children or your parents, to give them food on the table every morning, every day, every night, 83% of that food comes from overseas. And I want you to do it when you go home. Check it out. Every time you prepare your food, list the commodities peas, milk, wheat flour for the bread, cheese. Let's go down the road. And you will find out that possibly for some of us, 100% sugar, salt, let's go again, margarine, ketchup, let's go down the line. You will find out beef, rice, chevron, mutton, let's go down the line. Now, if you do that at your home, you will suddenly realize that all of this thing about food import bill is not something that's very abstract. But some policymakers do not, they talk about food import bill. Oh, we have a huge food import bill. So people they can't touch it. They don't know what it means. And so when they go home to eat, they don't realize that this food import bill that we're talking about is actually on the table at homes. That's where it is. Because we are the ones who make the decisions when we go to the supermarkets. We are the ones who make the nutrition decisions of what we give our children to eat. And therefore, the food import bill is on the tables at our homes. It's in the bars when you go to drink your beer or wine, and then you order a little cheese stick or something to eat. That is where the food import bill is. So for St. Lucians, and sometimes we believe we're so developed. We speak down sometimes to our neighbors in the Caribbean. We are so developed. You know, we're big. We drive a lot of Audis. But 83% of the food that we put in our stomachs have to be purchased from outside. How developed does that make us? And you must be asking, why is Minister saying those things when we have a value chain thing to do? It's a value chain launching, for heaven's sake. Get on with it. But you see, that's the crux of the problem. Because I am convinced that our people, our policymakers, our people do not understand the problem that we are in. They don't understand it. So we are on our merry way, having fun, going to jazz and all those things, and we're happy. But we don't understand the problems that we have. For example, in St. Lucia, in the OECS, we had to find $53 million to buy chicken. And we had to find $27 million to purchase wheat flour. Because every morning we want white bread and those kinds of things. Pastry. And you know what pastry is in your lasagna and all those things that we love so much. We had to find $9 million to purchase pastry. $9 million. And the major vegetables and fruit that we need to find US dollars to buy: carrot number 1 in the OECS, carrot. Cabbage number 2, tomato number 3, garlic number 4, pineapple number 5, and then apples and grapes. Not golden apple, you know. The apples. Not golden apple. A country like St. Kitts, for example, has to find 94. In fact, for St. Kitts, 94% of the food that they eat comes from outside. In Antigua, it's 91%. For St. Lucia, 83%. I'm saying all of this to say to you that this exercise today is not another exercise in futility. I think if we understand those things, when we are communicating with our stakeholders, when we are dealing with the value chain analysis and all of the important things that was said a while ago by Mr. Aziz, I hope I have the name right, Mr. Mohammed, all of those things are critical if we cause people to understand those things and what it means for our country, the survival of our country, and so forth and so on. I think this is a great opportunity for the agricultural sector. It also signals the continued commitment of the government of St. Lucia and that of our partner, the European Union, through the BAM, the Banana Accompanying Measures. It promotes diversification. It also supports social adjustments that are linked to the contraction that has taken place in the banana industry. This BAM program underpins the continued commitment of the European Union to strengthen and extend the partnership with our government, and it seeks to deliver development activities through significant investments, not only in rural development, but also in the economic and social infrastructure. I'm sure you have heard before, ladies and gentlemen, that we may not get that kind of safety parachute from the European Union anytime soon again. The times when we got a lot of aid from everywhere, those times are over. Everybody, including the developed countries, is trying to shore up their own economy and trying to secure their own population. So we need to take advantage of this opportunity, and we need to be serious about it. I may not be a minister forever, obviously. In another 1.5, in less than 2 years, there is a little accounting exercise that is to come, and you may never see me at the ministry again. But while we are here together, we need to ensure that we put our shoulders to the wheel and to ensure that this exercise means something to our people. I want to say to you that this contribution of agriculture to our economy over the last 20 years has taught us many lessons. It has taught us that we should not be like the plantation economy anymore. We should never be like that anymore, to produce goods simply for export. Because when the consumers in those countries decide to change their tastes, then we now are shocked and need to be able to find our way out. We should ensure that this exercise causes us to focus on food security while we search for opportunities for export. I wish to say to all of those who are assisting us that I am excited about this. I get very frustrated sometimes because I like to see things happen. I like results. And when I don't see those results, I get frustrated. When I go to the farms and people ask me about the BAM, when is the BAM coming? What is happening to the BAM? But I do understand that those things take time. I wish to thank the National Authorizing Officer. I wish to thank Ms. Blanchard and all of those who have been working so hard to ensure that this comes to fruition. I think by tracing the connections from the producers to the buyers, and a while ago, Mr. Mohammed indicated that the exercise will certainly focus on the consumers. And I was very happy to hear that. Because most of our farmers, many of them, for them, the role of the Ministry of Agriculture and the role of the government is to give them fertilizer, give them seeds, give them chemicals, give them. I'm sorry to say that over the last 3 years I may have lost some votes, but this cannot be the role of the Ministry of Agriculture. It should be to facilitate, to do the technical work, to ensure that the farmers and the fishers and the rural development organizations get the best technical advice that they can get. It is to ensure that we connect them to financial institutions in the best way that we can. It is to ensure that the government creates the right policies so that the environment for investment is there. And so this exercise, I'm sure, will help us. I want to thank the stakeholders who are here. I know that you too have been waiting impatiently. And I'm looking forward to this exercise to provide some relief to you. Before I close, I wish to say to you that my job is really not to say to you that the government will solve everything there is to be solved in agriculture. My job is not to tell you that I'm going to give the stakeholders everything that they want. My job is to tell you that there is harder work out there to be done. My job is to say to you that what you see in the OECS as prosperity and progress may not necessarily be true prosperity and progress. That you and I have to come together to ensure that we solidify the base of the economies of these islands. I thank God we are doing well with tourism. I thank God that many of the indicators are showing that we're doing well. We are doing a little better. But I say to you that if we those of us in agriculture, rural development, fisheries, the producer organizations, those who produce food, the people in health, in particular, if we do not work together, despite all of what you see on TV or you hear, you just have to be dogged in your attitude that we know this is the right course and we have to stick to it. Malcolm Gladwell, who is one of my favorite writers, in a book called The Tipping Point, says that there's something called stick-to-itiveness. Stick to it. Stick to it. Despite all of what, you stick to it. People say, what agriculture? Agriculture? It's agriculture. People always talking about they want money and this. So much money we give agriculture. Don't worry about that. Because you know that if we don't do what we have to do, the economy of not just this country, but the whole of the OECS will be in trouble, in more trouble than they already are. And we have a job of work to do. So I thank all of those who have been working hard, who've been toiling. A special thank you to Mr. Compton, who has been working very hard with this project. He's highly skilled, and I'm sure sought after. And I thank him for sticking to it. And I urge everybody to stick to it. Everything is not all right. Extension officers, everything is not all right. Some of you in the ministry, I know everything is not all right. But we have to stick to it. We have to stick to it. I thank you very much.